Hello to all the debt warriors out there, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'm your host, Katie Fada, and today's topic will be about the fear of missing out, aka FOMO. I'll be tackling FOMO versus finances and how the two relate to one another. Okay, so did you know that about 69% of millennials experience FOMO on a daily, if not hourly basis? Instagram is such a FOMO trigger because 60% of millennials have shared their experiences on social media. So I know I've mentioned this in the earlier podcast about the Instagram lifestyle, but these statistics about it don't lie. Going out to a bar or dinner with your friends is where most of millennials spend their time and money on the weekends. 51% of younger millennials go to a bar at least once a week. So I know you guys listening know I'm a younger millennial, and I'm not going to lie, I might fall into this category where I go out to a bar at least once a week. So let's say we're spending a minimum of $50 a week at a bar. That's $200 a month just on the bar part. This cost doesn't include your transportation to and from the bar, like if you're taking an Uber or a Lyft there and back. Look, I don't want to scare you guys away from going out and socializing with your friends. I just want to let you know that there's a smart way to do so that won't hurt your finances. You can ask my friends or my family or anyone who knows me, and they'll tell you I'm an extremely social person. But I also do experience FOMO a lot more than I should. And today's guest is the complete opposite of me. Our guest today is a millennial named Erin, who is a very good friend of mine. She is one of the few millennials I know who rarely experiences FOMO, and I need to know how she does this. Erin and I will be discussing how to conquer your FOMO, good alternatives to a pricey night out, and how else millennials and Gen Zers experience FOMO aside from going out. Okay, now let's get to Erin. Hi, Erin. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Katie, what's up? Thank you for having me. This is so cool.
I know. I'm so glad that you could be here to talk about this topic because I thought you would be a good person to give a different insight. So I want to get your take on FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, in case anyone skipped over the intro. I know you're totally cool with missing things, but as you know, I'm the complete opposite. I'm not cool with missing anything. And it's funny because we always say how we're opposites in every way, yet we're such good friends. So I need to know how you avoid FOMO.
That is so true. We're total opposites. I think it's easier for me to avoid the FOMO is just because I'm slightly unaware as to what's happening around me. Not really from like a place of ignorance or anything like that, but I think I have more of a out of sight, out of mind mentality. Like, right. For example, how I don't have any social media. I think that helps me stay off the grid.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
I know, and I can't believe it. Again, I'll talk about that later.
Listen, you can keep tagging me in photos. I just am not there to see
them. I do.
But I think that helps me stay off the grid. I don't really know what I'm missing out on, I guess you could say, just because I'm not on there seeing the Instagram stories or, Twitter, Facebook, anything like that. So it makes it a little bit easier. And, I think after a week of deleting it, I wasn't really tempted to go back on it and look at it anymore. And it just felt good to have it wiped off of my phone. And then I would also say it helps me kind of keep in touch with my friends on a better level as well, just because I'm not really updated on what they're doing because I'm not seeing it online. So, I'm reaching out more often and just checking in.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, you're still always checking in, which is like, I totally appreciate it. And it's so good for you that you could stay off social media, because I'm the complete opposite. Like I said, like, I'm on social media all the time. And although I haven't given into like the full Instagram lifestyle mentality, like I'm not booking a vacation every other week, I'll get FOMO if I see people out and I'm not there. So this makes it hard for me to say no to anything. So it's true that I have a little statistic that 44% of Gen Zers check their social media profile on an hourly basis, which is
I
Nuts. And
believe
at
it.
our age, we're like the least millennials. Like we're like the youngest millennials. So like we're on the cusp of Gen Zers, but we're not them. So I'm similar to that. Like I could feel like that's true for me. Can you kind of like give me your take on why it's important for millennials and Gen Zers to put their FOMO to the side and focus on their finances?
Um, I mean, first and foremost, I guess you just can't be always so afraid of missing out that you just keep spending money and not saving any of it, right? You need to have some savings there at the end of the day. Um, I think it's important to go out. You shouldn't be saying no to everything. And you should be enjoying life and having a good time, but kind of all in moderation, right? Like,
Right.
you go out on a Friday night, maybe you stay in on Saturday night. Or if you have a big trip coming up in like a week or two, maybe you just stay home the whole weekend and you just save the money that you would have spent, out to dinner or something like that. And you do a good job of that too, right? Because you'll do no
Try.
spend weekends.
I'll try. Or
Um,
I do try to do like in moderation, like one
yeah.
night in, one night out.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I think the no spend weekends, it holds yourself accountable for saving up. And even if you just have a plan with your finances to begin with, like when you get that paycheck, how much of it goes into savings versus how much of it has to go towards bills and different payments on things, and then like how much disposable income do you have left at the end of the day. That's kind of, then you have to decide what you want to use that for.
definitely. And if you want to do a no spend weekend, what would be something that we could do that's like a no spend activity? Like, do you have any ideas without breaking the bank that my listeners can do without
Oh, I
with doing a
mean,
no spend?
yeah, of course. I think there's so many, like, because you'll probably end up spending a little money here and there, just if you were to have do like a dinner night or something, or like just drinks at someone's house. You're not going out to a bar and racking up the tab or anything like that. But if everyone just brings a bottle of wine, or people just bring a food item or something, you'll probably spend about like $15 to $20. But I think it's significantly less than what you could be spending if you were going out.
No.
And you could just like throw in some games or a movie, and it's a pretty relaxing night in.
I know, because we did this recently and it was honestly so fun. And you don't have to get ready or anything. So it saves time.
Sweatpants all the way.
So it's so funny because when I was preparing for this interview, I looked up so many statistics and I can't believe how many statistics there are about FOMO and millennials. So here's an interesting one I found. 69% of millennials say they worry about missing out on events if they don't check social media. How do you think social media plays a part in FOMO? And we were kind of touching on this earlier, but I was wondering how you felt about it in general.
um, I think it's got to be one of the biggest players in FOMO. It's the reason people know what they're missing out on. It's what they see that makes them feel like they're missing out. They're constantly refreshing their Instagram to see what new stories are posted. You just had a stat on that earlier, right? Like
Yes,
44% or something like that.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they watch those
Yeah.
stories and whatnot, and they feel alone or they feel left out, and they just find themselves in this vicious cycle because they're obsessively feeling the urge to check the
Mhm.
social media posts, but then they check it and they make themselves feel left out. It's just kind of dangerous from the start. And then you're on there and you see people having a great time, and you compare it to your own life, which I think is just not healthy, because even the celebrities and the influencers and stuff on
I know.
Instagram, they're only posting the good parts.
I know.
Like,
And
their
it's like,
lives just aren't as glamorous as they make it
I
out to be,
know.
but Instagram is the highlight reel, so that's what you're going to see. It's
Crazy.
like you don't see a ball player going like 0 for 33 in his, like, you see the highlights on SportsCenter top 10. You see the home runs, you see all that. Like, it's just the same thing as Instagram. You don't see even a peaceful night in, if you're doing like wine and dinner or something at someone's house. Sometimes you don't even really see that.
I know. But it's like you want to show it off though, because that's just like the mentality. I don't know. I feel almost
I think you
brainwashed.
want
Like,
to show it off because everyone else is showing it off, and you feel the need
yes,
to almost compete in a way, right?
I know. And show like, look, I'm doing something. Like I'm not just staying home. Look, I'm cool.
Yeah, but and everybody thinks that they need to exactly say like, oh, look, I'm doing something. I'm not just staying
Mhm.
home. But half the time, the other people don't even realize that you might be out or you might be staying home, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone
Exactly.
thinks they have to save face, but I think, just doing you is the way you should do it.
Exactly. And then when it comes to like someone actually inviting you out, and let's say it's something that's going to be expensive, like if they want to go to a really expensive restaurant, a lot of people just say yes because they worry about not being invited again in the future, which is sad, but it's true. So, like, what advice would you give to our generation and Gen Zers on how to avoid that kind of FOMO when it's like feeling like you have to say yes? I know you would just, I know you're the type of person to not always say yes. So what
I
do you
mean,
do? I need to know.
I think, if you're making plans with your friends and whatnot, those guys are your friends, right? So if you tell
Yeah.
them, listen, I'm going to sit this one out because I'm saving up or because I'm just looking
Hmm.
out for my finances, they should understand. And by no means should it mean that you're not going to get invited to anything anymore. And if it
I
does, then,
know.
maybe they're not the best of friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think even just being honest with it, because if you do keep saying no, can't make it, and giving no description, and people might think you're up to better things, then yeah, maybe they'll stop extending the invite. But if you're honest about it, they're always going to keep you in mind, I think.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, I don't know, because sometimes it's like you wanna say yes because like I'm the type of person to always say yes. But then at the back of my head, I'm like, wait, I didn't budget for this at the beginning of the month. So because sometimes I know I have a super busy month, but then if we have last minute plans, I don't want to say no. Like I'm not the only one who's gonna miss this type mentality.
Right. And those are words that have come out of your mouth before.
Oh, I know. Like I'm still thinking about it. So I know it's not like you saying no all the time, but I know a lot of the times, like you'll tell us your schedule because you're a successful business lady. I know you are, and you do a lot of traveling for work. So sometimes I just know you're not here, but I always feel bad not inviting you. But I know you're always traveling. So do you think the traveling all the time helps with your FOMO because you're like, well, I can't be there anyway. So what do
Yeah,
you
I
think?
mean, definitely, first of all, even when I'm out on the road, I always appreciate the invite. It's always nice to know that you guys are still going out and having a good
Mhm.
time. Um, but I think it definitely helps just because, I am preoccupied doing other things and, I'm focused on getting stuff done with my job. And even when I am on the road, sometimes I'm in cool cities or something like that where I'm kind of having a good time doing that. So I don't even realize what I am missing out on back at home. So I think that helps. Even just in general, having a job that keeps you super busy, it definitely um, plays a part in, I guess, maybe not feeling like you're missing out on as much just because you are so preoccupied with work.
Yeah, exactly. So, you were just talking about how like you can avoid FOMO that way and you're good at avoiding FOMO. But I have to know, be honest, is there a time that you've ever felt it? Like I don't even know this answer, so I'm curious. Is there a time that you've ever been like, "Oh, dang, I wish I would have went," or "Dang, I didn't get an invite." I need to know.
um, a specific time I can't think of off the top of my head, but I think the answer to that is definitely yes. There's never
Mhm.
going to be a time where you don't feel left out 100% of the time, right? So I
Mhm.
would say it's probably definitely back when I was on social media and stuff, and maybe I had work late that night or something like that, and
Right.
whenever you have like a bad day at work, right? And you're
Yeah.
still at work and you see all your friends out having fun, you're like, oh man, I wish I was doing that too, you
I
know?
I
Um,
know.
yeah, so like anytime like that, or, just like there are some days where it's like, oh, I'm super tired, I'm gonna go to bed. But then I would have woken up the next morning and saw you guys just having a good time. And I was like, oh, maybe I should have stayed out. Maybe I should have, powered through it.
Yeah. No, that's sometimes how I think, especially with like maybe a spontaneous outing on like a Friday night, because sometimes Fridays are rough.
The work week.
But like I enjoy our last minute plans, even if it's on a Friday to go out. But like I kind of said earlier, sometimes I don't budget for them. And my budget, since it doesn't allow for it, I'm like, but once again, I'm feeling FOMO. So like you were saying,
I like our last minute plans, although sometimes they are on a Friday night and I'm kind of tired from work, but I'm like, I don't want to be the only one who misses it. So I'm still going to go out even though I'm tired and this is super last minute. So, can forethought planning help your finances and budget? Like if you kind of make plans with your friends at the beginning of the month and say, okay, on March, whatever, we're going to go out, and then you have a couple weeks to save up for it. Do you think that helps your financial planning?
Yeah, of course. I think financially planning for anything in advance is always going to help you in the long run.
Mhm.
Whether it is just spending time with your friends or, of course, going on a vacation or, like you mentioned, like a more expensive dinner or anything like that. Um, I think, like how I touched on a little bit earlier in just how you split that paycheck when you get it, twice a month or monthly or however often you do get it, what you do with it, what you put into your savings, what you use to pay the bills, and then, what you are going to use to either see your friends or if you need some new clothes or if you're going to like a concert or something like that. Like that's when you have to take what's left and kind of divvy that up and put those into even smaller compartments almost.
Yeah, right. And like sometimes even in your budget, you have to include maybe shopping or something
Yes, you
because
do.
I do think that FOMO can play a part in shopping because it doesn't necessarily, I don't think it always relates to a night out. Because FOMO can also relate to having like brand name items or like going to an expensive coffee place. If you see your friend with Starbucks coffee, you're like, oh, wait, you know what? Maybe I need that too. But I feel
Yeah.
like FOMO can relate to like that type of thing. So like, what do you think about that? Do
No,
you give into it?
when you say like FOMO with brand types, right? Like that just takes me back to middle school, right? Like
Oh,
needed
yes.
that Coach bag, needed
I
that
love
Juicy
this.
Couture purse, the
Yeah.
sweatsuit, or like the charm
Uh-huh.
bracelet. You just
It's
needed
so
it.
true.
Or you needed that like Abercrombie bag, but it had to have the moose on it, right? And so like
Mhm.
even at a young age, you feel that FOMO from brands because the people, not even the people, but just like different groups of people at school have things like that. And we have this perception that in order to fit in, you need that too.
Yeah.
And
And
even nowadays, it's the same way,
yeah.
right? Like there's always going to
Yeah.
be a popular clothing item, and we're always going to want it because everyone else has it. It's not even like you want it for any other reason. It's just because everyone else has it, and it's the trend at the moment. It's a fad.
Yeah, it's definitely true, but this is the kind of FOMO that I don't give into, believe it or not. There is a type of FOMO that I don't go into because I don't go out of my way to get coffee in the morning. Like I make it at work, I bring my lunch, like I even was shopping. Like I'm not a big shopper. Like I'll add things to my cart, but I'll be like, do I really need this? You know?
Yeah,
The only thing I maybe will give into, and like is maybe I don't like to repeat an outfit, but there'll be cheap
that's pretty
outfits.
huge.
But they'll be cheap outfits. Like I'm not gonna go out of my way to spend like a lot of money on a sweater. I'll just buy the cheap one.
Right, right,
No,
exactly.
definitely. But
So
it's
yeah,
still
the brand name
FOMO.
FOMO does get you.
I know.
That's
That's
good.
still
That's
really
expensive FOMO to have.
that's a budget buster, I would say.
That is.
Well, I think that might be the end of our interview. Unfortunately, I had such a great time talking with you. You've given some great insight to our listeners today. So, are there any final thoughts? Sorry, you want to share about conquering FOMO?
I mean, if anything from what we just talked about in general, it's just, always put your finances over the FOMO. Make sure that
Mhm.
you're always thinking about budgeting beforehand. But also, don't keep yourself locked at home all the time. Make sure you go out and have a good time and, you
Mhm.
deserve to enjoy life. So it's just finding the balancing act of it all.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for being here. I hope that,
Thank you for having me.
we could conquer our FOMO together, but we can also hang out sometime.
Oh, of course.
But
All the
yes.
time. I love that.
So, yeah, maybe we'll have to have you back on the podcast in the future to talk about, to give my listeners some insight on something else, like
I
another
would love
topic.
that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks, Katie.
The FOMO is real for millennials and Gen Zers. I couldn't believe the statistics I was reading about FOMO. I think Erin provided some great information on the other end of the spectrum. She is someone who doesn't let things like social media affect her life, and I'm so jealous. If you couldn't tell from the interview, we're opposites when it comes to social media and FOMO, but we're still able to be great friends. As she says, she always makes sure to reach out to her friends on a daily basis, and I love that about her. Like, we don't always have to hang out face to face, but I still know that we're still great friends because we always communicate in some way. So I know Erin and I touched on how millennials feel as if they need to say yes to going out because they feel if they don't say yes, they won't get an invite in the future. I looked up some statistics about this, and 41% of millennials believe they have to say yes in order to keep friends. And as Erin said, if they're not going to invite you out again because you were being honest and said that you can't afford it, then they might not even be the best friends for you. I think another interesting topic we discussed was the concept of FOMO about having brand names or always having to have coffee or get that really expensive salad at lunch. So it's true that 48% of millennials have spent money they don't have to keep up with their friends. People love posting their food and their designer outfits on social media. People don't always think of this as FOMO, but it for sure is. Now, I don't expect you to have conquered your FOMO entirely after listening to this episode, but we can take baby steps toward it. You can work towards having a better financial life while you work towards dominating your FOMO. I want to thank our guest today, Erin, for providing her side of the FOMO debate. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to rate and review us and give us a 5-star rating. Talk to you next time, millennials, Gen Zers, and everyone else listening.